Hey everyone. So today we are going to be talking about the bleeding gravestone. Um you'll see why it's called that in just a bit, okay? So, the bleeding gravestone. So, St. Mary's Church of Hinckley in like some weird place in like Britain or something is the last resting place of Richard Smith, who was killed on April 12, 1727 at 20 years old. Simeon Stain was a recruiting sergeant for the army. He had come to Hinckley and stood outside the Pig and Whistle along Regent Street, informing a crowd of potential new soldiers about the virtues of taking the king's shilling. Okay? When the sergeant suggested that the George Inn was named after King George II, Richard started to make fun of him and said the George Inn was actually named the George and Dragon. Of course, it was not, but Richard just wanted to pick on him. Richard would not stop with his comments. When Richard would not stop with his comment, the sergeant lost his temper and gave the crowd a demonstration in how to use a halberd. A halberd is a type of weapon they had back in the day. I'll find a picture of one and post it on the community tab, so y'all can see it. It's weird. So the sergeant lost his temper and gave the crowd a demonstration in how to use a halberd in close quarter combat. It was at this point he struck Richard with the weapon and then left him lying on the floor in the pool of blood. Later on, Richard died of the wounds that the sergeant had inflicted upon him. The sergeant had now fled Hinckley. So, sergeant's gone. He left. He ran away because he killed a guy. So, and when you kill a guy, you freak out and run. Because you don't want to get arrested. So anyways, Richard was buried near the church wall of St. Mary's Church during April 1727. Simeon Stain was later arrested and sentenced to death. So Stain was arrested and... Okay. 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 Had to go pick her medicine up. So Richard was buried near the church wall of... Hold on. So Richard was buried near the church wall of St. Mary's Church during April 1727. Stain was later arrested and sentenced to death. So Stain was eventually caught and arrested, and he ended up being sentenced to death. Because, you murdered a guy. Eye for an eye. And upon Richard's gravestone is the following inscription: "A fatal halberd his mortal body slew. The murdering hands God's vengeance will pursue. From shades terrestrial, through justice took her flight. Shall not the judge of all earth do right? Each age and sex his innocent bemoans, and with sad sighs laments his dying groans." So, yeah, like creepy. And also kind of sad. Now, according to tradition, the gravestone is supposed to sweat blood on the anniversary of his murder. Hence the name, the bleeding gravestone. So yeah, that is how that story ends. That tale, story, legend, whatever. Yeah, that is how it ends. Um, it's a very sad kind of story. But anyways, that's the story of the Bleeding Greystone. I have no idea why I did that. It's a sad video, but you know, you gotta. So you know what? Forget it. Subscribe.